How you doing,
Doing
Aaron?
good. What about yourself?
I'm good. You ready to light this up tonight with these muffins or what?
Oh, absolutely, man. I already made a pre-batch to show off, save ourselves time after. They taste absolutely delicious. Can't wait to show everybody how to make them. But
Nice.
just a little preview. This is what they turn out like. For everybody watching, what we are doing is we are making some blueberry crumble high protein muffins. And one muffin only contains 100 calories and they have 9 grams of protein each. So you don't have to worry about putting the fat on if you want to enjoy a muffin.
Ooh.
Cool. So what we're going to do is firstly, I'm going to put these aside because these aren't for you. These are actually going to go to my parents because I'm about to make 24 muffins in total and I already ate 2. I don't need that many. All right. So first order of business. What you want to be able to do is we need a large mixing bowl, right? What these contain is all really healthy ingredients because basically any recipe that you find out there, you can replace with a lot of good substitutes. If it's got sugar, I prefer to use monk fruit sweetener. If it's got brown sugar, use brown sugar substitute. There's a lot of things that you can do to lower the calories of these muffins and make them higher in protein. So what we're going to start off with was firstly, you need 60 grams of oats. So what we're going to do, we're going to add that to the bowl first. Secondly, what we're going to do, we're going to add 40 grams of all-purpose flour. All right, toss that guy in there. Jason's favorite part, we're going to add 2 scoops of vanilla protein from Nutrabolics. Got the Hydro Pur vanilla. You could use chocolate if you want, but I want to just have more of the blueberry flavor. So we're going to add 2 scoops of that into there, so about 60 grams.
So for people who don't know, you're making high protein blueberry muffins, correct?
Yeah, with a crumble topping on top. It gives a
Nice.
little bit more of that extra flavor, that nice little first bite when you get into it. And then we have 100 calories per muffin. So you can make a whole bunch of these, have it on the go, have a couple for a meal replacement. Really easy to make. Now, after you've done that, what we're going to do is you're going to add some cinnamon into here. We're going to add 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. Get your teaspoons out. There we go. Tighten this up again. Makes me look like I'm 50 pounds heavier than what I actually am. Not going back to that. We're going to stay lean all year round. Not go heavy on the bulking season, right? So add that. And then,
What are you weighing? What are you weighing now, Aaron? You're looking pretty jacked these days. What are you weighing?
thanks, man. So before I did my competition, I was 240 and I'm 5'10", and then I got down all the way to about like 193, or actually 190 was my low, and now I'm about 215. So when I was on stage, I was 195.6, and I've been maintaining about 20 pounds since stage, and I competed last in June, and I won the light heavyweight bodybuilding competition back over here in Alberta, the show that was in Red Deer. So I got my first place trophy this year, and that felt really, really awesome.
Nice. Are you doing a
Yeah.
lot of cardio these days or what?
You know, what I do when I start off my day is I always want to make sure I set myself up right for the day. So first thing I do when I wake up, I make my bed, right? Second thing what I do, I always write down 3 goals that I have, whether it's for short term, for like the week, for the month, and for the year. That way I'm always focused on, okay, like what's the next step? How am I going to evolve as a person? How am I going to get better as a coach? How am I going to grow the company? How am I going to be, you know, a better fiance for my fiance, as we just got engaged back in the summer. So really happy about that. And then what I do right after is I take 500 milliliters of water with a bit of apple cider vinegar and lemon, and I take my morning vitamins, and then I hop on the walking pad for about 20 minutes to get some steps in. And when I'm doing that, I put something on YouTube that gives me a lot of education. So I might watch something from, you know, Alex Hormozy, or I might watch something from, you know, a coaching standpoint, or just my own knowledge. That way it's setting up my mind right for the day, so that after I do that, go take my shower, eat meal 1, then I get right to work and I can get really productive and put in like 12-hour days every single day without feeling like I'm burnt out. Yeah.
Wow. So how long do you go on the treadmill for?
So right now I'm only doing 20 minutes. And I haven't even been doing that daily. I'll either go on walks. It's getting to be a lot colder here. The snow is finally getting to set in, so I'm going to be doing a lot more of it inside rather than some walks out. but a lot of time I'm not even doing a lot of cardio. All I'm doing is I usually been training 1 day on, 1 day off. So that way I have enough energy to get my workout in. Next day I recover. I have a little bit of injuries right now. I'm waiting on an operation on my wrist here because I have some fluid buildup from when I injured it when I was benching, as well as my knee. But that allows me to have my afternoon where it's either like, okay, my afternoon, we're training, we're focusing on this, or the second afternoon, that's when I'm doing a lot of the other stuff like editing my videos, content creation and stuff like that. And I do more of that at nighttime as well. So I'm not actually even doing too much on the exercise standpoint side of things to stay lean all year round. It's just making recipes like this and managing my calories every single day, making sure firstly, I gear all my meals towards having enough protein for my body. Around right now, I'm usually eating about 230 to 40 grams of protein a day, right? Per meal, I have 5 meals a day right now, usually averaging from 8 to 10 grams of fat per meal. And then on the makeup of my carbohydrates, I'm not even eating too much right now, meaning 2,700-ish in that range. And it's been able to maintain my body very greatly until my injuries are fully healed up. Then I'm going to start reverse signing up a little bit, building up my metabolism so I can do effective growth phase and put on more muscle tissue till eventually I do my next competitions.
Nice.
Yeah. So nextly, so recap, we got the oats. We got 60 grams of oats, 40 grams of flour. We have a little bit of cinnamon in there. And what you need nextly, and then, of course, 2 scoops of protein from Nutrabolics. Now, what we need also is some baking powder. So it's what you want to do here. Where's my ingredients? There it is. We want 1 heaping teaspoon of baking powder. Right? Let those muffins rise nicely. Toss that in there. And what we want to do after that is add 1/8 of a teaspoon of baking soda. Toss that in there.
How long do these muffins take, roughly?
To cook about 20 minutes. And then preparation is another 10, so it takes you about 30 minutes, and you can make 12, unless you just doubled up on the ingredients and made 24. But usually this whole process, when you're just focusing on it, I made all the other ones in about half an hour. And that includes cooking time as well. Yeah. So after you do that, now what we're going to do is just a little pinch of salt in there. Always want to add a little bit of salt to your baking. We're going to mix this up. Then after you got your main dry ingredients mixed, you're going to put that aside. And we're going to grab a fresh bowl for our wet ingredients. I have Hello Kitty bowls, don't judge me. They were my father's, believe it or not. But so what we're going to do is, firstly, you want to crack in 2 eggs to start our wet ingredients, right? So 1, side, 2. And before you add your wet ingredients, what I like to do is I whisk these eggs to break up the yolk. Like this.
You look good with that bowl, though. That Hello Kitty bowl. I don't know. It looks good with you.
Thanks, man. It's pretty manly, I think, right? There you go. All right. So after you do that, guy, what you want to be able to do here is we're going to add in, I forgot my spoon. We're going to add in 180 grams of Greek yogurt. Fat-free, of course. I'm just using my finger like a little delinquent because I put my spoon in the sink and I got to grab another one.
That's okay. You got to do what you got to do.
Extra protein. There we go. Nextly, what we're going to do is I'm going to add in 140 grams of almond milk. And for everybody wondering, being like, hey, am I going to remember how to actually make these and do it properly? I already filmed a video right before this that I'm going to edit and post on my page so that you can see exactly making sure to get all the steps down and how we do that, or review this video, of course. Now, after you add in your almond milk, what we want to do here is we want to add in 20 grams, and there's an eyelash in there. That always happens. Gross. 20 grams of coconut oil melted. All right, got that in there. Instead of sugar, which would just spike up the calories as well as, adding a whole bunch of sugar. What I do is the best substitute I have found for sugar is monk fruit sweetener, and those are always carried at Costco. It's my favorite. So we're going to toss in 30 grams of that to get it nice and sweet.
Why do you like the monk fruit sweetener over the stevia?
So it depends what I'm using it for. I usually use Splenda packets if I'm just kind of sweetening up my coffee or just putting it on top of something. But whenever I use baking, the monk fruit sweetener has more of an accurate consistency like sugar, and it has a little bit of a stronger taste. You can tell that monk fruit sweetener and Splenda or stevia taste a little bit different. Splenda and stevia are a little bit more on the artificial side, where monk fruit sweetener is a more natural source, and it tastes almost identical to sugar base. And especially if you're trying to do baking and trying to have that right consistency, I would definitely highly recommend using this guy instead. But if you're just trying to sweeten up a coffee or something like that, I find just using a Splenda pack works a little bit better for that. You don't have to use as much, if that makes sense. Right.
Yeah, I've never used actually the monk fruit sweetener, so
oh, dude, game changer. I'm telling you, it's so amazing that we've invented stuff like this. This is actually just comes from a natural monk fruit. It's just extracted from it, put in a dried form, and we get monk fruit sweetener, which is basically like another type of sugar without all the calories added into it, and doesn't spike your blood sugar because there's no calories, right? So, lastly, what we got to be able to do into this is we need to put in 1 teaspoon, I believe. Yep. 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Vanilla is something you don't want to add too much or just overpowers, over flavors, and it just tastes way too strong, doesn't taste as good. So you want to make sure you're always accurately measuring vanilla since it's such a strong source. So now we have our wet ingredients done here. What we're going to do is mix this up as well. And then afterwards, we are going to add this into our dry ingredients. So that's what we're going to do right now.
How old were you when you started baking, Aaron?
Well, I wouldn't say it was more so starting on the baking aspect. It was definitely more on the cooking. I've been cooking my entire life. So my grandfather he's a Blue Seal chef from France. And he was a chef in the army during the French-Algerian War, where he really got his start in cooking when he was 18 and learning from his mother, so my great-grandmother. And my family actually has a whole giant recipe book that she made. Never met her, of course, but a lot of the recipes have been passed down, and we've been having that in my family for a couple generations now, right? So my mother learned a lot from that cooking from my grandfather and taught that to me, where, luckily I had great foods growing up all the time, never missed a meal. And I was like, well, hey, I want to learn how to make these myself. And especially when I got into the more bodybuilding aspects, or I should say the gym, because I started going to the gym, or I guess training, lifting a little bit of weights with my father when I was 14 and a half, because my other grandfather could do more pull-ups than me when he was in his early 70s. So I'm like, okay, there's no way I can let my gramps outbeat me when it comes to pull-ups, and I'm a teenager, right? Got into that, and then especially when I started taking bodybuilding more seriously, or I should say the gym at that point rather than bodybuilding, that's when I started preparing all of my meals. But I didn't know how to balance everything out and eat the way I do now. I always thought it was in like, hey, I got to eat chicken and rice every single day. I got to eat beef and potatoes. I was having mass gainer shakes all the time just to try and pack on the size, trying to have like 5,000 calories some days to be able to actually put on the weight, but it just passed through me and messed up my gut health. And then as time went on and understanding how to make different meal plans from the coaches that I had, I started to realize it isn't really about eating the same thing every single day. Why I think that's the best for people to start off is developing those consistent habits, because if you don't have those habits down, you're eventually just going to go back to your old ways, and why people usually gain the weight or they're not able to put on the muscle. So once you actually have that aspect down, then you can understand, okay, well, what are the right foods I should be using, and how do I place that on my plan so that I make sure I'm still having the same amount of macros and calories, but I'm conquering my cravings, I'm enjoying the foods I'm eating, because life is too short. And that's a really big aspect that I teach all of my clients how to do, so that they can live the lives that they want and not feeling like they have to get lean just by like looking through a hole, because that's not a sustainable solution. Because let's be honest, you're going to go on a date with your significant other, you're going to have family occasions, you just want to go out with your friends, and you're not going to bring your chicken and rice there, right? Let's be honest.
I might bring my sauces, though. My own sauces.
Oh, yeah, see, I do that sometimes. I'm not going to lie. There's some good sauces that you can use for that, and make sure you keep it down. But when I started cooking a lot more greatly was my first job, actually. So my first job, I started off as a dishwasher at Brown Social House, and really, really soon after that, I started working in the prep kitchen. After about 2 months, because I could do it so well from the experience I had, I actually got promoted to the lead prep cook of the entire restaurant. Then I started getting trained as the sous chef, and all of this happened within a year. And I owe a lot to cooking, not just because of like that aspect, but when I was working there, that's where I met my friend Nash. He's the one who actually introduced me to, when I was a professional musician touring the country and stuff, playing metal, to my band. And at a house party with my band, that's where I actually met my best friend today and my current business partner, who I created my team Physique Crafters with, Kevin. And I wouldn't be here today doing the stuff I do without that. Plus, being in the band was actually my first show, my first tour is how I met my fiance. So I owe a lot to doing cooking, because if I never got that job from my passion of cooking in that restaurant, I've never had my fiance today. I wouldn't have all those memories from touring, playing music, and I wouldn't have the best friend and business partner that I do to create everything that I do today. So everything happens for a reason, and I think that's really cool. That kind of everything started with cooking, and it kind of just all circled back to that's where a lot of people know me for now, is the cooking aspect.
Nice.
So, got the wet ingredients down. Let's add that into our dry ingredients here. And I always want to mix this up first before I add in the blueberries, because if you're whisking, you're just going to break the blueberries apart, and it's going to go everywhere. You're not going to have that nice little blueberry pocket in the muffins once they're actually done. It's just going to have blueberry flavor, but if you want the perfect texture and consistency, you want to make sure you whisk in the dry and wet ingredients firstly. And what we're going to do here is we are going to now fold in the blueberries. Okay? So what you want to do now is grab about 120 grams of blueberries. All right. We're going to grab a spatula and we're going to nicely fold these in so we don't break them apart. Got a good angle there. All right, good enough. And before we do the next step of where you're like, okay, time to bake the muffins, we got to make the crumble part. So now we're going to put this aside once again. This crumble part here is optional, but I think it adds a lot of the flavor to it. It's not that high calorie at all on how we're going to make it, but it adds that nice little bit of extra texture on top of the muffins and bakes it in to where that first bite gives a lot more of that wow factor. So firstly, what we're going to do here, we're going to re-grab our oats and we're going to toss in 2 tablespoons of oats. These are quick oats, but if you get rolled oats, that's actually going to work a little bit better. I do not recommend using steel cut oats for this. We're also going to toss in 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. Awesome.
How many of these muffins can you eat at a time, Aaron? Like, let's say it's not your on season and you're just chilling out.
Oh man, like if I just went through, I could probably eat the whole batch. I mean, that would be 1,200 calories, but I could probably do it. Would I kind of get sick of them like a little halfway through? Yeah, probably. Depends. Is it for me? Am I getting paid, or how many people can I actually eat? But I definitely had it before. I've done a challenge. The highest amount of calories I've eaten in one day was 17,000 in a day. So this would probably be no problem. But in order to do that, you do have to use a little bit more dense foods. For each one of these muffins, and they're good volume, it's 100 calories. Getting up to there, eating these would be quite difficult because they're so filling from all the extra fiber they have in it, especially from the oats and stuff like that. So if you're trying to also lose weight and trying to fill up the stomach, I think these are a great idea for you.
I wanted to ask you a kind of a somewhat random question now that we're talking about food. If there was a feed bar challenge, right, where you had to eat one whole box of feed bars, 12 feed bars, right?
Yeah.
How fast do you think you could eat 12 feed bars?
Definitely under half an hour. Be tough, but I could do it. I think the calories would get to me. I would have to be drinking water at the same time.
Could you have it like with milk, like in a bowl, like 12 feed bars in a bowl, eating it with milk, do you think you can make that happen? Like if I put you up to the challenge?
If that's a challenge, I probably could end up doing that. But it would be difficult. It'd be a challenge. That's the thing. It's a challenge, right? That would definitely be a really big meal. I would definitely lower my meals throughout the rest of the day. Probably eat egg whites and spinach. But hey, if you're up for it, you think that'd be a cool idea, we could definitely try that out.
All right, cool. Yeah,
All
no,
right,
it's definitely
cool.
on my to-do list of things that need to get done this 2026.
Okay, sounds good. I'll make sure I get to my bulking season really soon to make sure I can, fit that in my day and eat that.
All right.
Hey, you know what? The rest of my day I won't have to have that much. Actually, probably wouldn't even have to have much at all. I'd hit my protein, I hit my carbs, I'd probably hit my fats from all the milk.
You do it first thing in the morning. First thing in the
Yeah,
morning.
easy. I'll just pop a couple digestive enzymes, fast a little bit, get in the morning, and I'll crush that entire bowl. That's the plan.
Nice. Nice.
That's awesome. So, nextly, what we want to do here is instead of just using brown sugar, I use brown sugar substitute created by Splenda, and this is 10 grams. That adds a lot more of that. Everybody knows brown sugar and how different it tastes from the regular sugar. That's why we use monk fruit inside of it to give it that actual sweet taste. But this actually does contain a little bit of calories compared to the monk fruit, why we only want to use a little bit, and why you put it on the top so that's the first thing that hits your taste buds. Right? So we're going to toss that in there. We are also going to add in half a teaspoon of cinnamon. Right? And so that this can actually all mix together, I'm just going to have to quickly toss this melted butter back in the microwave because it's no longer melted.
So, Aaron, I got another question for you.
What's the question?
So, out of all the recipes, your fiance Lucy, what is her go-to recipe? Like, if it's just you and her, and
Yeah.
she's like, "Aaron, make me something." What do you think if you had to, guess? What do you think she's gonna want?
Usually, if it's something that I'm making, she loves probably the homemade pizzas that I do the most.
Mm.
Right? So how I do that, I actually have a video on my page a little bit ago on how to make those. It has a flour and cottage cheese base, so you can lower the calories a lot, still have a little bit of that flavor to it, but they're very light as well. Like you can make a giant pizza for like 600-700 calories and be able to roll it up as well. That's usually her favorite. One thing that we recently made, though, that I'm actually going to be posting a video on, today, is going to be this honey ginger chicken homemade takeout recipe that we made. That is probably the new favorite. It's really delicious because she has a lot more of that savory tooth. I have a lot more of a sweet tooth, hence the muffins. But what I like to do in my day is I usually swap between my meals where I'll have like, okay, I'll start off and either make like my mango cheesecake that we did for Nutrabolics, say for breakfast or something like that, maybe a different flavor protein, if I want to feel more on the chocolate side, something like that. Or we'll do, eggs, turkey bacon, put it on rice cakes or Silver Hills toast because that only has 50 calories a slice. Then kind of swap throughout the day. It's like, okay, well, my next meal I want savory, next I want sweet. But usually with her, she's having like no sweet meals in the day. Maybe a Ninja Creamy ice cream at night where we use, the protein powder to make those. But she's a very big savory sweet tooth girl. All right. And you know what's actually funny, Jason? She knows how to do all of these things like I do, and she's the person who actually came up with the name Gas or Acid. Why I started making that series was from her idea, from all the recipes that I do, because she actually makes them as well. So some of the recipes I post when I'm doing some of the quicker videos and stuff, she's actually the one who invented and came up with them. I just film them and put them out, and I kind of review it like with her and how to do that. So we kind of are like a team effort when it comes to those side of things, because she's competed as well, and she's just as much in the gym as I am. Maybe actually she's even in the gym a little bit more than me. And she pays attention all the time to what she eats, right? So here, I'm going to add in 20 grams of butter, light, low-fat butter, I should mention.
Well, we're speaking of pizza. I want to get you one day. I want to see you make an apple pizza because I watched an apple pizza video the other day and it just blew me away. But I know you're the man. An apple pizza with protein. Somehow I want you to make it high protein apple pizza.
Oh man, that's a great idea. You should have caught me a couple months ago when the apple tree was still blooming. I would have just grabbed apples from my backyard, but up here in Canada, yeah, those apple trees are not producing any apples now. It's almost December, so I'll have to go just buy some. But yeah, we could definitely make that happen. Basically, you can give me any idea, and I can figure out how to make the healthy recipe version. Absolutely. I just want to taste. That is so good. Like, this is the pièce de résistance that you put on the muffins. Woo! That is so good. You probably hear the French accent come out when I do that. So now that we have the topping done, the next step, order of business, is I'm going to transfer over the ingredients into this pouring cup so that I can evenly spread it across the muffin tray and I'm not making a mess. Right? Because everybody knows whenever you try and pour something out of a bowl, you are always just going to make a mess. So that's why it's good to put it in a measuring cup, something that has kind of like a little bit of a funnel to it, right? And I always use a spatula.
This would be the perfect bowl for the Feed Me Challenge. 12
That
Feed Me
would.
bars.
This probably would be able to actually handle it. I'm not going to lie.
I feel like this happened for a reason right now. You know how you said that earlier? This happened for a reason, Aaron.
That's exactly right. You know what I'm going to have to do before I eat that too? I'll go like on an hour run in the cold out here in the snow, get my body real fired up, and my appetite's going to be huge, and I can lower the time on how long it takes me to eat the 12 feed bars.
Because I was thinking you could do those 12 feed bars in like under 5 minutes.
Under 5 minutes? Wow, you got a lot of faith in me, Jason. That's pretty wild. All right. Well, depends. You know what? If I smoked a little bit, maybe I might actually make it a little slower. So since I already made all these muffins, I'm just going to pop these out and reuse my little muffin cups here so that I can transfer them in over. Let's just give me a little minute here. I'm not sure if you got any other questions while we're going through this little tedious process.
Yeah, I want to know, out of all of the recipes that you've made, what has been the biggest home run recipe that you've made that people are talking about?
The carrot cake. The carrot cake recipe that I did, now for myself, that is my most viewed video of all time on Instagram, and what got me almost, I would say, a third of my followers at this point. That is definitely number one. And number two would be the mango cheesecake that we made together for Nutrabolics. And number three is the homemade barbecue potato chips. Those have seemed to be like the most popular recipes based off of views and interactions and stuff like that. And personally, I really agree with that, because especially like that carrot cake. Oh my God. Like I want to make it all the time, but the thing is, I want to try out other things to show people other recipes. I'm just like, oh, I want to make another one of those carrot cakes. It's just so delicious. And then that mango cheesecake, I eat that every single day for breakfast. Every single day. I might just change up the flavor and use, say, like cookies and cream. I might do chocolate, change up the fruit a little bit. Maybe I'll use blueberries, strawberries, bananas, change up the syrups, but the whole base of the recipe still remains the same, right? So next, I'm just going to evenly pour these across all the muffins. And I don't want to fill it up all the way up top, because we need a little bit of room for that crumble. But if you fill it up all the way to the top, it's going to spill drastically over your muffin tray and just make a mess. This recipe, when I was doing it before, my muffin tray is a little small, so I technically could make 13 of these, and it might actually be a little bit better. But nobody's ever usually making a baker's dozen. It's just usually a dozen, because there's only 12 holes in this thing, right? So it just depends. And so you can always change the measurements or adjustments in it. I would just keep the ratio even, so you make sure you get all the macros right. Because if you keep all the ingredients leveled out, you're going to make sure that each one of these still only has 100 calories. Right?
Who do you watch or look to for cooking inspiration?
Most of the time, my grandfather. And I see him every single week. Every week I go visit my grandfather. And we have a little family breakfast every single Sunday where he makes us crepes. Sometimes he makes us homemade quiche, right? Have some sauces and stuff like that. And I'm always working in my day, because I'm not going to say no to having a nice family meal like that, because you never know how much time you have left with your grandparents. And also, he's the best cook I've ever made or I've ever met. Absolutely. He's giving me the inspiration for this, right? But a lot of time when I'm figuring out like these recipes, it depends. Because on my gas or ass series, I'm always looking at, you know, comparing recipes for people that I see online and figuring out like how good are those actually, right? And that's the whole premise of the series. And then when I'm thinking about stuff that I want to make, like recipes like this, honestly, it just comes to mind and I think, okay, what am I feeling like? All right, well, either I already know how to make it based off my memory and skills, or I go research a recipe up. And then when I'm looking at that recipe, I make minor adjustments to it. Like this one, how I got the inspiration for it. And firstly, I'm just going to mention we want to take little bits and crumble the crumble on top of each muffin. I made adjustments to the recipe because in the original recipe, it didn't have any protein powder added to it. So therefore, you're not going to get you're not going to get nearly like 10 grams of protein per muffin. So that was a big thing for me. And then also had a bunch of sugar, had a lot extra butter, a lot extra coconut oil, and that just really spiked up the calories and the fat. So then these muffins would have actually been about like 180 to 200 calories each with less than half of the protein. Well, if you're considering a recipe like that, that's not really going to hit your goals well. Because what you want to be able to do for every single thing you're eating, you're always trying to get about 1/10 of the calories. So say if it has 100 calories, you want to try and get around 10 grams of protein for it. That's a really good rule of thumb. And why I say like the feed bars are such a good way for that. Comparison, the calories compared to the amount of protein. And I always try and, when I'm thinking about like making these recipes, the biggest thing that comes to mind is how do I make sure that for myself and the meals I have, say if I'm having, okay, well, I need 240 grams of protein in a day. That's about 42 grams of protein per meal that I have. So how do I make that as high protein as possible? And a lot of times you use the right protein powder, and say you got flour, you can replace a lot of that flour with the protein powder because it has such an even consistency. Yes, it does bake a little bit different, but that's why I don't replace all of it. Because if you replace all of it, well, it's not going to rise. Then you may as well just put a bowl of oatmeal and protein powder and blueberries in it, which you could do, but let's be honest. Well, it looks a lot nicer. Blueberry protein crumble muffins or just a plain old bowl of oatmeal. I'll let you decide on that one. All right. So now these are done. These cook a little bit differently. So usually I would just bake stuff at 350. These guys specifically, I put in about 425 Fahrenheit and I cook it for 5 minutes. And then I will cook it for about another 15 to 17 at 350 so that it doesn't burn the top. But that way it gives a little bit of that extra rise to it initially, and I taper it down so I can cook the inside without burning the top. Because if you leave it at 425 like the entire time and have this crumble on top, it's going to go black. So it's really, really important that you bring that down. You could just stick with it 350, but I guarantee you it's going to taste a lot nicer if you cook it for 5 minutes, a little hotter, bring it down to 350. So I'm going to toss these in the oven now. Quickly rinse my hand off. And this is dirty anyways. I'm just going to do one of those. But once you're done, this is what they come out looking like. And honestly, like when you do these, they're so easy to meal prep that you could just make 24 of them like how I am right now, make 12. You don't even need to use it to replace an entire meal in your day, right? A lot of people think you have to stick with one thing. Well, say if I'm having, these for breakfast, am I just going to eat a whole bunch of muffins? Probably not. What I'm going to do, especially for the next few days while I eat these, is I'm going to have some eggs, egg whites, put some spinach in there, a couple of vegetables and stuff, and have my plate of eggs either with like sugar-free ketchup, maybe some Frank's hot sauce, have those for a lot more of my protein because I need to eat about 5 of these to get my protein intake in, right? But I want to make them last a little bit, fill up my volume because I have a really big appetite, and then I'll have these like on top of it. This one's got no blueberries in the center. But I guarantee you a lot of them do. You already saw me put the blueberries in.
Nice. So what about people, can they freeze these? Like, are these something that can be frozen and then eaten later or no?
Yeah, you can definitely do that. It is going to change the consistency a little bit. And because of the Greek yogurt and almond milk and stuff in it, if you leave it out for a couple days, it will start to mold. So I always recommend eating this within usually 2 days of making it, potentially 3 if you're putting it in the fridge. but you can definitely meal prep these and put these in the freezer. They just, as they thaw out, you need to give it a little bit of time to thaw. It will change the consistency a little bit, but if you don't really mind for that and you want to have like easier to go and just put them in the freezer and make them last longer and have say like one a day, so you make 12, last you for almost 2 weeks, you can absolutely do so, right? Mm-hmm.
What kind of tips can you give people out there that are just starting out? They're kind of getting into this, call it, cooking, lean cooking, sort of, prepping their own food. What are the, key tips that you could give some people out there?
What I recommend first is if you have no idea how many calories you should be having, you can use a calorie calculator. This isn't the most accurate thing possible because everybody's a little bit different, but it's a really good start, especially if you don't have a professional like myself helping you out. So what you could do is find one online. You can go to my website, physiquecrafters.com, and scroll down, and you'll find a calorie calculator there where you can enter in your information like your weight, your body fat percentage, your height, your age, your sex, your job activity levels, and so your physical activity, and that will give you a range of what you want. How you should go about it from there is I recommend trying to split up those macronutrients evenly across how many meals you want a day, whether it's 4, 5, 6. I don't recommend 3 though. 3, for most people, you will start to lower the optimal rate of your digestion and potentially not absorb all the nutrients properly in your body, but have a lot bigger sugar insulin spikes because your body's not able to regulate the foods as well and digest that amount of protein. Because say for me, if I tried to say get 240 grams of protein in across 3 meals, 80 grams of protein is very, very filling. Like, I don't know if you ever tried to eat 80 grams of protein worth of chicken. Like after you do that, good luck eating the rest of your food.
How many grams? How many grams of chicken is that? Do you know?
For 80 grams, oh man, that's got to be like, off the top of my head, it's probably like 240 grams
No,
of
it's
chicken.
it's got to be more than that because I'm eating 400 grams of chicken at a time.
It's got to be way more. 400 and per meal, you're eating 400 grams.
Yeah.
Well, damn, you got a stomach. Usually per meal, I'm having about 160, and that with everything else in my meals usually pushes my protein to about 45. Right? So I guess if you consider it that, it's probably around the 300 mark. I'd have to double check, right? Exactly like what the gram amount is. But the best thing you can do also is when you have your training sessions, try to position a little bit more of your carbohydrates around your meals because that's when you're going to be utilizing them a lot more because carbohydrates are your fast-acting energy source and fat is your slow-acting energy source, right? So since you're going to go train, I would eat about an hour or two before you go to the gym so that way it can get absorbed in your system, right? But it really more so matters on the day before of how you ate benefiting the workout that you're doing today and then having a little bit more after because you just depleted your glycogen stores in your muscles from all that training you do. So when you break down food in your stomach, it gets converted into glucose. That is why glucose affects our blood sugar levels and why our blood sugars go up when we eat, right? But when we're actually able to process that correctly, it gets stored as glycogen in our muscle tissues. And so once we're doing muscular training, that glycogen starts to get depleted, and we need to make sure that we eat to refill it up. That's why the most important meals in your day are around your training, right? I would also argue that breakfast is almost exactly the same because usually with breakfast, you're going 8, 10, maybe 12 hours without eating, and you need those nutrients in your body, right? So evenly splitting up that total across your day for your meals is the best way to get started out. Getting an app that can help you track your calories like MyFitnessPal, Elite Trainer, Macro Factor, those guys there, and making yourself a meal plan with foods that you can message me a cheat sheet and I'll send you a macro cheat sheet. That way you can know, okay, like what are the best food options that you can have to formulate those meals and get some more ideas. And those ideas, for example, that's exactly why I post the recipes on my page so that people can have a better understanding like, hey, how do I actually get healthier with just not having to eat like oatmeal and blueberries every day or having to eat, chicken, rice, and broccoli, those things there. Hey, you can eat those things, but a lot of people also don't understand you can change those things up a little bit. Like you don't have to eat plain chicken and rice all the time. You can change up the sauce, you can change up the spices, you can change up what kind of rice you use, you can change up how the way you cook the chicken, you can oven bake it, you can grill it, right? You can toss it in an air fryer. I personally like to put mine in a pressure cooker so that way after it's done, I can shred it apart, and that way I got shredded chicken. So sometimes it's not even about changing up the meals that you're doing, it's how you're making them. And that's a really big, important part that I think people need to understand.
Mm. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about today or any questions that you have for me before we wrap up today?
Yeah. I think let's turn the conversation around a little bit and chat about yourself, Jason. Like, what made you decide, or I guess starting off earlier, what got you into fitness?
I think, watching my father in business, my father was an entrepreneur. He used to be an agent for some
Mm,
pretty big bands. Like he, was the agent for the Guess Who. He put on like
right.
huge concerts with like Led Zeppelin, the Rolling Stones, like massive concerts. And then he went on to own a nightclub. So he was really in that entertainment field, right? Like, and
Mm,
really, he's kind of a hard dude, right? Like, if you knew my father, he was very, like kind of like a hustler, like the real deal. So he
yeah.
he was definitely a big person in my life where I saw this, man, and just like him moving and shaking and always on the phone, and I think that's where I kind of got the motivation to kind of do my own thing. And I haven't really worked for anybody other than I started off working at GNC, a health food retailer. But that's really been my only job since I was like,
Okay.
when I was younger. And then I started Nutrabolics. So I haven't really, I've had Nutrabolics now for 20, almost 25 years. So I really only worked, for about a year and a half for GNC. And that's really my whole career of working for other people. So I don't really know any different, right? Other than the hustle, So my father was a big inspiration, like huge. And I think trying to live up to his expectations and, is kind of what drove me and, kept driving me to, push more and push harder. And, he was kind of one of those guys where, you know, didn't matter like what he was going through, what kind of pain he was in. Like I remember my father when just to kind of give you like a quick update of like how hard of a man this guy was is like, he was in his early 80s. He had fallen. He was basically not able to get back up, right? And he was like kind of having like almost like a seizure, right? And my father was never ever one to ask for help. Okay, like
Yeah.
he could be like so that he's down and he's out and he can't move. And I said, should I call an ambulance, right? And my father says, what do you think? Because he will not admit that he needs help, even at the worst of the worst like state that he's in, right?
Yeah.
He won't. So that's kind of how I grew up. So I think that's just to kind of give you an idea. That's really been the driving force of me, kind of keep going no matter what happens. We just keep moving forward. We just keep growing. We just, don't take no. We just keep improving the products. So to kind
Absolutely.
of
That's awesome.
answer your question, that's kind of been my motivator.
I like hearing that because it sounds like your father has a lot of that inspiration for you that my grandfather had for myself, the one who isn't here anymore. Because my mother's father is the one who has all the cooking stuff he's taught me, philosophy, science, who I practice my French with every single week because I speak French just like I do English, but he's the only family member really on the French side besides all my family in France to speak to. So on my
Mm,
father's side, the German side, your father reminds me a lot of my grandfather who passed away when I was 19, so seven years ago now, and how when he moved over from Germany and the war ended when he was 7, right? So after when he was about 20 years old, he moved over to Canada and didn't have work. So what he did and started was he just started hustling. He was doing all these different kind of jobs and starting up his own cabinet making business at the same time. And he grew that business so much where he ended up buying the land. He bought had owned the building, grinding and building up that business. My father even worked with him for a long time. He took a lot
mm,
of that money and was just doing investing. And then
mm,
the day I was born, as I'm the first grandchild of him, he actually said, I'm retiring and sold off everything because he
mm,
wanted to be a grandfather full time for myself. And
mm,
he brought me up, teaching me these things. Every Thursday, I'd see him playing table tennis. I'd always see him grinding. But a really big part I didn't start to notice until I got older was how much of a family man he was and the things that he did across his entire life and all that hard work and efforts was
mm,
how he could bring our entire family of 11 So him, his wife, my grandmother, their 2 kids, their significant others like my mother and my aunt, uncle, and then all 4 of the grandkids, 5 of the grandkids, sorry, over to Mexico multiple times. And that got me thinking, wow, because that changed my mindset on money. I've never been really materialistic or wanting those things. I just saw that aspect of what does grinding and putting your mind to something every single day do to your freedom aspect, and being able to say, make those memories with the family and enjoy that time that we had, especially because now when I think about him, because he's been gone for so long, I have all those memories to remember, and I would take that over anything as to my reason why I was, for a couple years now, I've been in the entrepreneurship route myself. Before I started getting into music full time and started doing all my tours, I was managing a supplement store. And I actually still work with Supplement King to this day, right? Not at the store, but as the head brand ambassador for the Edmonton region and doing stuff for them until, did all the band stuff. And then I had some injuries, some other stuff happen there where I could go into this full time, and it's completely changed my life. So I think, having your father, my grandfathers, even my father, I should say fathers, my stepfather too, because he owned his own business, and that was a really big inspiration for myself, and how supportive every single one of those men have been into my life is like made or break the difference on the direction of how my life has folded out up to this point.
Mm. Well, that's powerful. Well, listen, hey, Aaron, man, you've been a great guest. Thanks for coming on Perform, bro. We really appreciate it.
I appreciate you too, man. It was great chatting with you.
No worries. All right. Well, have yourself a good night, my man. Thanks again.
Yeah, you as well. And everybody watching, have yourself a great rest of your day. And soon I'll have this next video out so you guys can follow the recipe instructions in written form.
Perfect. All right, man.
Awesome.
Take
All
care.
right.
Thanks.